Welcome to Developmental Theories. On today's show, we'll explore different theories of human development. You'll hear from important scholars in the field of child psychology. As you hear from each expert, you will gain a better understanding of the different theories. Sit back and enjoy our discussion on psychoanalytical, learning, cognitive, contextual, and evolutionary development. We'll start by hearing from experts on social analytical development.
I'm Sigmund Freud, champion of psychoanalytic development. My work with those suffering from mental illness led me to theorize that childhood and unconscious desires influence behavior. I developed psychosexual development theory, which breaks down development into three psychosexual stages. What happens within these stages affects personality and behavior for a lifetime.
Freud's theory has three stages: oral, anal, and genital. His theory depends on the idea of psychosexual energy, or pleasure seeking. Individuals move through each stage or develop fixations. Persistent focuses on early psychosexual stages. Freud's theory suggests each person moves through the stages and develops personality by the age of 5, and the stages are revisited later in development.
The oral stage is centered on infants. During this life stage, infants use their mouth for nourishment and bonding through feedings. Freud's theory has another crucial aspect: dominant conflict. According to Freud, each stage of psychosexual development comes with a conflict. In the oral phase, the conflict is weaning. During this stage, a child becomes less dependent on caregivers. The anal stage centers around bowel and bladder control. During this time, usually 1 to 3 years of age, a child must learn to control his or her bodily needs. The major conflict at this time is toilet training. A child goes through the phallic phase, where the genitals play a crucial role. This usually takes place from 3 to 6 years old. During this time, children begin to discover the differences between males and females, usually accompanied with strong feelings towards the opposite gendered parent. Then comes the latent phase, where a child's psychosexual energy is directed at intellectual, creative, or relational pursuits. This occurs from age 6 to puberty. Finally, an individual will experience the genital stage. This occurs from puberty to death. During this stage, an individual will develop strong interest in the opposite sex. The goal of this stage, however, is not purely sexual in nature. It is a time to develop a balanced life.
Excuse me, Freud doesn't know everything. His research focuses too much on males, and his theories cannot be tested. There are other psychoanalytical theories, you know. I'm Erickson, and I have a well-respected theory of my own. It has 8 stages. Why does Freud get all the attention? Let me tell you my thoughts.
Erickson's theory of psychoanalytic development encompasses the entirety of an individual's life from birth to death. It is similar to Freud's in that each stage has something that must be resolved before being fully ready for the next stage. Erickson's 8 stages start with trust versus mistrust. Trust versus mistrust occurs between birth and 1 year of age. During this time, an infant is utterly dependent on the caregiver. Here, an infant must develop trust. If an infant learns caregivers cannot be trusted, this will show up later in life as social problems. Next, a child in early childhood will experience autonomy versus shame and doubt. This deals with control over body functions. During this stage, a child will develop independence and self-control. Positive reinforcement by caregivers will ensure a child navigates this stage successfully. Next comes initiative versus guilt. This occurs during the preschool years as a child learns to assert power and control over their own world. Here, a sense of purpose emerges. During late childhood, usually ages 5 to 11, a child will experience industry versus inferiority. If properly supported and reinforced by adults, this is the time in which children develop competence and belief in their own skills and abilities. Identity versus confusion is the stage that occurs in adolescence. A sense of identity is explored and developed, as well as a testing of independence. Individuals experience conflict within themselves and resolves as they gain a stronger sense of identity. Intimacy versus isolation occurs in early adulthood. This is a crucial period for exploring personal relationships and refining personal identity. Erickson's proposed resolution of this stage is love, the formation of lasting, meaningful relationships with others. In adulthood, individuals go through a stage called generative versus stagnation. This is a focus on career and family. The resolution of this stage is care, the ability to prioritize the needs of others. The final stage is integrity versus despair. It occurs in old age and involves reflecting back on one's life. An individual with regrets will experience despair. a feeling of having lived a wasted life. On the other hand, those individuals who feel as though they are satisfied with their life choices will feel a strong sense of integrity or pride.
Thank you, Freud and Erikson. What a rambunctious discussion between two scholars. That will give our viewers plenty to think on. Let's move to the learning perspectives theory. We'll hear from a behavioralist and Albert Bandura.
Behavior is a byproduct of one's involvement in their environment. Children experience the world around them and imitate what they see. This is the initial method that their developmental learning begins.
Learning development is more than behavior. It is more to it, my friend. I do believe that the world affects the children and the children affects the world. This is the bi-directional learning, and what I call the reciprocal determinism.
Well, I believe behaviorism describes observed behavior as a predictable response to experience. This means that during development there is an imitation that surrounds experience. When there is an alternation in the behavior, it's called behavior modification. Psychologist B.F. Skinner believed that in order to increase or diminish a set behavior, there must be a reinforcement or a punishment.
The deemed appropriate social behavior are, in your words, enforced behavior. It's chiefly by observing and imitating models. In order to effectively demonstrate this way of learning, I believe observational learning is best. Observational learning can occur even if a person does not imitate or observe behavior. Imitation of models is the most important element of how children learn language, deal with aggression, develop moral sense, and learn gender-appropriate behavior.
Behaviorists hold that human beings at all ages learn about the world the same way that other organisms do, by reacting to conditions or aspects of their environment that they find pleasing, painful, or threatening. Moreover, they argue that learning occurs throughout the lifespan. The process governing the way you learn to walk are very similar to those governing the emergence of language. Behavioral research focuses on associative learning.
Interesting. I've upgraded my version of social learning to social cognitive theory. I thought it would be a more greater emphasis on cognitive processing as a general development. Cognitive processing are at work as people observe models. They learn in chunks, not lifespans. Mentally, you put chunks together into complex new behavioral patterns. I believe that theories can coexist, although yours might need a few alterations. It was nice meeting you, though.
You too.
Fascinating, folks. Now let's move on to contextual learning and evolutionary learning. First, we'll see an example of contextual learning. Then, we'll explore evolutionary learning with the creator of natural selection, Charles Darwin.
How did you like the field trip, Tyler?
It was good. I learned a lot, and it was fun seeing all the redwood trees.
What did you learn?
I learned about how to tell how old trees are and their health, stuff like that.
Oh, how'd you learn that?
I asked the guide, and he took me through the whole process of telling me the age of the tree and everything that goes into telling the health. It's really amazing. If we didn't go on this field trip, I wouldn't have been able to learn so much.
That's great to hear. I'll see you tomorrow, Tyler.
Charles, what would be your response to the theory of evolution?
I would say it's definitely true. I'll put it simply, as every species comes from some form of parents, and the offspring take the sharing of traits from the parents, and with each birth we take a step further into evolution from our past parents. These parents have an opportunity to create these offspring based on natural selection.
Awesome, sir. How would you best describe your theory of natural selection?
It's based on the survival of the fittest. All forms of life have an opportunity to live and reproduce based on the fact that they were strong enough to survive their environment and grow in their environment and had the opportunity to reproduce. As generations evolve from pass generation to generation, more of these weak traits will fade because those offspring carrying the weak traits will either die off from either sickness, death, of many different ways, and only the best traits will survive until there's just one dominant trait remaining.
Fascinating. That's all the time we have. Thanks for coming to the Developmental Theories Show.
Wow, that was fascinating. Now let's move on to Jean Piaget with his theory of cognitive development.
Welcome to another segment of Development Theories. Today we have an exciting guest. Here today, he's going to tell us a little bit about his theory of cognitive development. So, sir, can you tell us your name and a little bit about how you got involved in your field?
Hi, my name is Jean Piaget. Much of my expertise is involved in cognitive theory of development. Cognitive development can be described as the gradual improvement of skills such as information processing, memory, conception, reasoning, perception, and language.
Interesting.
I founded my own theory of cognitive development, in which there are 4 stages of intellectual maturity that occur during infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. The first stage of cognitive development is the sensor-motor stage. This is the period that goes from the time that you are born until you reach the age of 2. This is when the most prominent changes in development take place.
Nice.
The second stage is the pre-operational stage. This is the period where the children learn how to portray various objects through the use of words and drawings or other forms of play. The third stage is the concrete operational stage. This refers to the middle childhood period where the children are between the ages of 7 and 11. The fourth stage of cognitive development is the formal operational stage. In this stage is where you see the thought processes become more abstract, organized, and investigative.
Interesting. We're glad you were here, Mr. Pysch.
That is it.
Wow, wasn't that just a riveting discussion? I can't believe we're all out of time. We'll see you next time on Developmental Theories.